Okay, welcome to the iPad podcast. This is episode 59, and this is Lex from MaxFuture.com, and this is Sunday, June 19th. And, of course, a lot of stuff to talk about the iPad, all sorts of iPad news. So why don't we get to it? Okay, so the first thing I'd like to talk about is actually address a question asked by a listener named Hal, who sent a nice question. And this is the question from Hal. He says, I have a question for you. I'm just about ready to spring for an iPad 2. And one of the tasks that I want to do with it is create simple one-panel cartoon drawings with text and then upload it to my blog. The guy at the Apple Store showed me iDraw, which has layers and a text component that seems to work for him, but he goes on to say he never said that uploading the image file would be a problem because Safari doesn't support the uploading of image files. I think then he goes on to say, I subsequently found that there are some workarounds, including another browser, ICab, that supports image uploading to some websites, but the info is scattered and it's hard to get my head around it. So I guess his question is, how do you go about on an iPad uploading content to blogs? So here's the thing. Let's go through various options. Okay, so Hal uses iDraw, which looks like a very nifty iPad app for drawing. It costs $8.99. And so his question goes to, okay, he creates content in iDraw. So how does he get his cartoons up to his blog? Well, first of all, things are done a little differently on an iPad than they're done on a regular computer, but it's not really that challenging. You just have to make sure you have the right tools, because the browser is not the same as on a computer. But let's get to first things first. Now, iDraw, which I do not have, does say you can export your projects to the Photos library in the iPad. It says save designs to your Photos library. You can also directly from within the app, like many apps on the iPad, they have built in it the means to then email content that you create and send via an email. And there's also other ways to export. Probably you can probably export via iTunes. Many of the programs allow you to hook up to iTunes on a computer and then select the Applications tab, find the program, and export. But really, this saving designs to Photos library is really one of the easiest ways, because basically your photo project or your cartoon project will be saved as a PNG or a JPEG to the Photos library. So what do you do when it's there? Now, I guess the question is, what kind of blog does Hal have? I don't know. I mean, it really depends on what kind of hosting service he's using for his blog. Okay, so I personally use Tumblr, which is a blogging service, a microblogging service, but it's also a blogging service. And MaxFuture.com, I have my own domain, but it's hosted by Tumblr. And there are other services like WordPress and Squarespace and Blogger by Google. So I don't know what blogging site Hal is using, or if he's using his own site. But let's go through the different means. The thing that I'm most familiar with is Tumblr. Now with Tumblr, sometimes I'm not at my computer, I'm on my iPad or on my iPhone, and I want to make a post and use a photo. And that's pretty easy because Tumblr has its own free app called Tumblr in the App Store. It's actually an iPhone app, but I use it on the iPad too, because you can put it in that double mode. So it's very easy with Tumblr, because what you do is you launch the Tumblr app and it allows you to post a photo. You can also post video, audio, a chat. I haven't done that. A link post, and it's very easy. You just go into the photo part of the Tumblr app, and you can navigate to the Photos application or library on your iPad and select whatever photo you want. And the same with videos. You can select whatever video, or from within the app you can take a photo or a video or even an audio recording, a short one, and post it onto Tumblr. So a lot of blogging services have apps on the iPhone and iPad that work with the blogging services. For example, I know that Squarespace has such an app, and so what I would tell Hal is to find out what service, he obviously knows what service he's using for his blog posting, and I would search the App Store to see, use that as the keyword. So if it's WordPress, I would do a search for WordPress apps and see if there are any free ones. Even the paid ones are only going to cost a couple of bucks, and see what they do. Now, one of the limitations of the Tumblr app is that I think it can only post one photo at a time. So if you want to post more than one photo at a time, you can't really use that app. It's kind of limited, and frankly, I wish that Tumblr would update the Tumblr app so that there's an iPad version and that you can do more things, because through a web browser, you can, on a computer, you can post more than one photo, I guess. Although I'm not so sure of that. But look, there is a workaround, which is a lot of blogging sites like Tumblr, like Blogger, like Posterous, and maybe even Squarespace allow you to email blog posts so that they appear in your blog. So with Tumblr, I can email a post to Tumblr, and when I email it, I can insert in the photo app, in the mail client on the iPad, you can insert more than one photo. Now, the current version of the iOS, you can't do it from right within the email. In other words, you can't just go into the email and select a whole bunch of photos. But I think you can select something like 5 or 6 photos in the photo app on the iPad, and then copy it and then paste it into the email. And so that's a workaround. You basically go into photo, and you let's see, you just select a number of photos. Right now I'm just testing this, and let's see, I think it lets you copy a whole bunch. I mean, I've copied 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and I'm going to press copy. I just pressed copy. Now I go into the mail app, and I'm going to write a new email, and I'm going to press down with my finger and press paste. I'm going to get like a little button that's going to pop up in there. Wow, I've got like 8 different, I guess 12 different photos. And so then I can write under the photos and email that to Tumblr, and Tumblr will treat it as multiple photos. Now, so again, it really depends on your blogging service. And one thing that stinks, though, about the emailing, because I haven't figured out how to do it differently, but right now if I email to Tumblr, it posts it right away. And one of the features that I like in Tumblr is that if I do it through the web browser, I can, or through the app, I can put the post in a queue, or even in draft form. And maybe there is a way to put a code in the email. I'll have to investigate Tumblr to see if you could do that. But right now when I email, it goes right up on the website. And even if I want it to go up and be saved as a draft or in a queue. Now, on the iPad, there's something else that you should know, which is that some blogging services like Tumblr, and I think even Posterous, allow you to put like a little bookmark Java app in the browser. So I have it on my Macintosh, and when you click that, a window pops up in the browser and allows you to like quickly blog the link in the browser that you're at. Now, here's the thing: on the iPad, that little window, button that you have in Safari for Tumblr, it only allows you to like blog links in Safari, unlike the one on the Macintosh, which allows you to put a photo, a photo link, or some other content. The one on the iPad only really allows you to like blog the link in Safari and write some content. You can't. It doesn't give you an option to put other content. However, it does give you the option to save the post as a draft on Tumblr or in a queue. Well, something else that Hal mentioned was that that maybe this app on the iPad called iCab would be useful to like post photos on websites. And I'm not familiar really with this browser. It's apparently an alternative browser for the iPad. Now, I've never been a big fan of alternative browsers for the iPad because I don't know, I find them not to be really as good as the Safari browser. But if you're looking at the video version of this, I went to the iTunes store, the App Store, and I'm looking at ICab Mobile, which I think is what Hal's talking about. And it does appear to be a $2 app, which is a mobile browser for the iPad. And it basically says it's got all these features, but I don't see an uploading photos feature, to sites. It says here you can, it's got searching capabilities, filling out forms, filter, bookmarks, full screen mode, downloads. It says iCab Mobile has a built-in download manager, so you can download almost all files from the internet. The downloads can be easily transferred to the Mac, PC, Linux computer, but also to other apps on a device which can open these files. So, but I think what Hal's looking for is something that would allow him to post photos up on his blog. Now, it goes on to say there's scrolling, guest mode, Dropbox support, but I don't really see something here that allows you to upload to sites. Now, there are other ways. Like if you are hosting your own blog, I guess, in providing your own service, you probably like use an FTP client from your computer. And I do believe there are a number of FTP clients on the iPad that you could use to send, blog posts if you're using FTP. But that's not what I really do, because I use the Tumblr, and I guess, I don't know, Tumblr might work with FTP. And let's just take a quick look. Okay, so if you have the means to FTP your blog posts to your site, either because you're hosting it yourself or you have some sort of service that does that, then you probably are looking for an app that does FTPing. And I really don't do FTPing for my blog, like I said. So I did a little search, and this one seems to be very promising. It's called FTP on the Go Pro. Now, it's a little pricey. It's a $10 app. That's $9.99. And I guess it's made for the iPad, or it's iPad enabled. And this seems very robust. It says that it's an FTP client for the iPad, iPhone, and iPod Touch. View and edit HTML, CSS, JS, PHP, ASP, or other files on your server with its built-in editor to change your website from anywhere. And it goes on to say, view images and documents, JPEG, PDF, Doc, XLS, PPT, etc. too. All the features of a desktop FTP client and more, all in the easy-to-use but powerful package. So this seems to be very powerful. It looks like some of the new features are, in version 2.3, added direct access to photo library files, get the original video files at full resolution and quality, and images at the full saved quality, requires iOS 4.0 or higher. Added unzip and zip support or two. So this seems it would do what Hal's looking for, which is, it looks like if he has the ability to do FTP to the blog site that he's using, then maybe this is his best bet, or a similar FTP app, because it does have access to the photo library, so you could upload photos and files. So you know, these seem to be the options, really. You know, so the options are either, let's recap it. The options are: does your blogging platform have an app that lets you, that runs on the iPad, that lets you upload to your blog, like the Tumblr app? Number two, does your blogging platform support emailing blogging posts and with content to the blog? Or number three, do you have an FTP ability with your blog? Because there are FTP clients. Just do a search in the App Store for FTP, and you might want to try out like different ones. I mean, look, this is probably one of the pricier ones, $10, but if you're blogging a lot, that's really not a lot of money. Okay, so let's get on to some other news. Well, I finally had a chance to test out the wireless mirroring. I guess that's in the iOS 5. And I don't want to give away too much about it because I am, you know, I do respect Apple's wishes to be confidential about this. So I'm just reporting on what other people have experienced, which is wireless mirroring on the iPad 2 is amazing. So again, you know, while I've partaken in this, other people have reported this on the web. And it's basically a pretty amazing thing, because it means that many apps you'll be able to wirelessly run to an Apple TV, and you'll be able to just mirror everything on your iPad. And so a couple of things that really stand out. Real Racing 2 HD, I can't emphasize this enough. Even if you're not a gaming person, if you get the iPad 2, consider getting Real Racing HD 2, because it really does sort of show you how amazing the iPad can be as a gaming device. I'm not particularly a real gaming person, but I love that app. And what's really cool is also running it on a big screen TV, because you can hook up, right now you can hook up an iPad using the HDMI out connector, which Apple sells for, I think, like $39. It's a little dongle that plugs into the only connection to the iPad, the proprietary USB connection that Apple has. And the other side is an HDMI out. And you can hook it up with a cable to like one of the modern big screen TVs. And it's so cool. But the thing is, what's cool about it is the racetrack, and your car, you're looking through a car that's on the big screen, so you feel immersed in it. And Real Racing HD has done this thing where on the iPad is the racetrack. So it's running through the iPad two different screens. One is the racetrack you're actually racing on and looking at on the big screen TV, and on your iPad it's a view of the overall track, so you can sort of plan the turns that are going to come up. To me, I feel like I'm actually racing when I'm doing it. But the crazy thing is, with wireless mirroring, you're not going to have a cable anymore. You could walk around the room and do this racing and look up on the screen. And so the possibilities are like immense, because when I had the cable, I always felt like the cable was going to like pop out of the iPad too. And sometimes it did. And, you know, occasionally my kids who were very young would also play this game, and they would turn the iPad, and the cable, you know, the way it plugs in to the USB, you know, slot in the iPad, if you're moving around the iPad and jerking around, you know, the anchor can pop out. So not having to have an anchor, I think, is a game changer. I mean, this is huge. So other apps also like work with this already. I mean, developers haven't even really done anything, and the iOS 5 is a beta, but it seems to work very well, this wireless mirroring. I mean, there's let me tell you about the app that I also tested out, which is pretty amazing. Okay, so one app that works well with wireless mirroring, and which could be really useful in the future, is one app that I talked about before called Exhibit A. Now, Exhibit A is really primarily designed for, well, actually, I think it's designed for many people, but, you know, it could be used by trial attorneys to show exhibits at, like, trial. Now, what Exhibit A says on in the App Store is that it's a powerful tool for organizing and presenting information for presentations in the courtroom, in the boardroom, in the classroom, or anywhere you need to present your message with power, clarity, and precision. And so this app is only $10, and you know, it's so cheap. It's called Exhibit A. I've used it. I've played around with it, and just, you know, testing in iOS 5, it seems to work with you know, wireless mirroring. But what's interesting is the way Exhibit A works is it's like a lot of software that's made for regular computers, which is it's an exhibit presentation device, which is you can configure an exhibit like a PDF document and do things like shout outs and highlighting, and then publish it to be seen on a different display. That's the key to this technology. And there are programs on computers like Sanction and Trial Director that allow you to organize your documents and without the audience seeing it. And then when you want the audience to see it, you publish it so that it's seen on the other display. So your primary monitor is like the place to sort of organize your exhibits and mark them up. But really, anybody could use this, like a teacher. So they upgraded the app recently. So now the app supports what are known as callouts. So what's new here? Let's see. It'll say it has instant callout, which means that if you're in a document, and the documents are generally PDFs, JPEG images, or video. But when most documents you're going to have in PDF form, Adobe Acrobat, but you can create a callout on the fly. Let's say you have a multi-page document, you scroll to page 2, but you want the audience to see a couple of sentences in the middle of the document. So what you do is with your finger, you just select the callout tool and then just create a rectangle or a square over the area that you want called out. And it's like a magnifying glass. It pops it out, and you can publish that. So when you see it on the other screen, you'll see the background of the overall document, but with the part that you really want the audience to see sort of zoomed out. And this is huge. This is really great. I mean, you can do other things like highlight the document. You can redact the document, which is you can put blocks of, black blocks or red blocks and black out things you don't want the audience to see in the document. But here's the thing, this works wirelessly. So when iOS 5 is released, imagine what presenters are going to be able to do. Like a teacher could walk around the classroom, and as she's doing her lecture and wants to show different things, she can cue it up and then just show the audience what she's planning on showing, and do the zoom thing. The zoom function is amazing. So in a way, it's much more powerful than Keynote or PowerPoint. But once you have the wireless stuff, it's crazy. It's like a new world. That's the way I feel about it. So a little shout out to the Exhibit A app. You should really check it out. It's only $10. If you're into doing any sort of public speaking or presentation of materials, showing documents, showing pictures, and wanting to be selective about what people see, the beauty of this is you can publish something so it's on the screen and keep it locked there, and go and queue up your next document, but they don't see you doing that. That's the beauty of these programs. And they used to be just on computers, and now we have it on the iPad. So like, for example, let's say I'm doing a presentation as a teacher on, the art of Florence. So I put up a picture of some statue, Michelangelo statue, up on the screen. But I want to keep that up there while I go and select and prepare my other slide, my other photo, and that's what Exhibit A can do. But again, I can't emphasize what this is going to be like when iOS 5 is released, because people are going to be able to walk around with their iPad, and all you're going to need to get is an Apple TV, which costs 99 bucks. I could see convention centers just keeping these Apple TVs hooked up to their monitors, their big displays, and you know, it's just going to be great. Okay, so let's get to some news. 9to5Mac has some disturbing news regarding newspapers and media on the iPad, and I hope this is not a trend, but according to 9to5Mac, and I actually verified it on my iPad, the NewYorkPost.com is now blocking the iPad Safari browser from seeing content of the NewYorkPost.com. And basically, when you go to the site now on your iPad in Safari, the website basically says that you need to go buy the New York Post app and get a subscription. Now, I mean, you don't see any of the New York Post website when you go there. So it's not like the New York Times blocker, which you can easily get around with a little, with actually a little plug-in that basically takes down the blocker. This is basically, it senses it's an iPad and doesn't let you see any content. So I mean, this is pretty wild. Now, I'm not going to buy the subscription because the subscription runs for $6.99 per month and $79.99 per year, $39.99 for 6 months. You know, I'm sorry, New York Post, I like you, but that's way too much money. I'm not so addicted to it that I need to pay 80 bucks a year for it. And you know what I'm going to do? I still have, you know, a browser on my computer at work and a browser on my computer at home. And I'm just going to, if I'm interested in New York Post, I'm going to read it on my computer at work or at home. And if I want it on my iPad, I'm going to use Instapaper. Instapaper is that great service where you have like a plug-in on your browser. You see an article you want to read, you click Instapaper, and boom, it goes to your Instapaper app. So I'll be reading all the New York Post articles on my iPad in the Instapaper app. So, you know, New York Post is owned by Rupert Murdoch, and what's interesting is, you know, his daily app is not so draconian. So I hope this is not a trend, because I don't think it's going to work. I think they're just going to lose an audience, and people on the iPad are not going to really read the New York Post. Okay, good news if you have that great DJ app on the iPad. Now, the DJ app is an app I've raved about before. I forget how much it costs, maybe $10 or so, or 20. I think it's about $10. I might be wrong, or $5. No, actually, well, how much is it? DJ is $10. Well, DJ app is a great app. It's like a DJ turntable. You have two turntables. It's integrated with your iTunes library on your iPad, and you can spin tracks and merge them and record them. And I've given a glowing review about it. It's one of the coolest apps on the iPad. But here's the great news. Now there's some hardware that'll make the DJ app even better. Now, DJ has the ability to really be just like a DJ, a real-life DJ turntable, which is what DJs do when they're gigging, is that the audience hears music while the DJ in his headphones, let's say his right or left ear, is cueing the next track and listening to the next music, because he's trying to decide what music he'll play next, or he wants to cue it up. Now, the app on the iPad DJ has the ability to send out two different streams of music, and through the output of the the headphone jack of the iPad. But you need basically some hardware to take advantage of that split. And so Griffin, which is a great Mac-oriented company that makes accessories, has a new product out, and this is by way of Cult of Mac website. And basically, it says here that Griffin has teamed up with German-based algorithm to launch its DJ cable, which is a $20 cable that works with Algo. This is who makes the DJ app, algorithm, to split out between live tracks hitting the speakers and tracks being lined up through the DJ's headphone. So basically, it's a splitter. And so you plug it into the headphone jack, and one cable goes out, and that's going to be the jack for your speakers, and the other one's going to be a jack for your headphones. Yeah, the DJ app is only $10 right now. So I guess it's normally $20, but this is great. I mean, this is just another example of how the iPad is starting to replace other things. Because I can see a lot of DJs getting the iPad and using the iPad for their DJing gigs, and certainly with this little accessory, it makes it easier. Okay, so Apple now has a new commercial for the iPad called Now. And it's really cool. It's like, now you can like listen to a magazine, see a phone call. Now you can take a classroom anywhere. It shows this commercial where you can hold a whole bookstore anywhere, or you can use an astronomy app and see the stars. And so that's the whole point of the ad. It's like, now you can do all these things. So that's the theme. So you may be seeing this ad very soon. It looks very cool. All right, so some of you are probably Facebook users, and you've been probably wondering for a long time, why isn't there a Facebook app for the iPad? Now, there is a sort of a basic Facebook app for the iPhone, and many people like me have been making do with using the iPhone Facebook app on the iPad. And for the life of me, I couldn't understand why Facebook, with all those resources, with hundreds and hundreds of millions of users, why couldn't it just come out with an iPad app? Well, the New York Times Bits column has an article on June 16th that says that in fact Facebook is readying an iPad app finally, and that it should be here soon. So let's look forward to it. The article says that one person who works with Facebook said Mark Zuckerberg, the company's chief executive and founder, has been heavily invested in the process of, I guess, creating the app and its unique features. It says that people who have seen the application says it has a slick design that has been tailored for the iPad and its touchscreen interface. The New York Times goes on to say Facebook developers and designers have also overhauled the Facebook chat and Facebook groups features for the application, and the app will go beyond the features available on the Facebook website by allowing users to shoot and upload photos and videos directly from the iPad's built-in cameras. Now, I'm not so surprised by that. I mean, the iPhone Facebook app lets you shoot photos, I think, and videos directly from the app. It goes on to say, quote, "The photo and video experience is amazing, offering full resolution and full screen images." So, I assume it's going to be a great app if it's on the iPad, and you'd think Facebook, with all those resources, can do it. What's particularly interesting about this is there had been an article in TechCrunch. I think MG Siegler, who's a very good columnist, broke a story a little while ago, a couple of days ago, saying that Facebook is working on creating some sort of web app that you could download and put on the iPhone or iPad, and then buy web apps or have them distributed through Facebook's web app, which would be an HTML5 app. And so, in other words, bypassing the App Store. And there's been all sorts of rumors going back and forth. There's another rumor that says actually Apple's working with Facebook on that. And, I personally have figured out a way to create a sort of a HTML5-like iOS app. And the thing is, unless you have a pure iOS app, you don't really get that incredible feeling of a great app. So I think Facebook has to come out with a pure iOS app, something made in Objective-C, which is the language that Apple recommends developers use in creating apps for the iPad. Okay, so Cult of Mac has an interesting story. We've seen the iPad used a lot in enterprise, and apparently American Airlines is going to be starting using iPads, or at least testing using iPads, to be the replacement for the paper in-flight charts that are used in the cockpit. So imagine how good the iPad must be that professional airlines, huge airlines like American Airlines, are considering using the iPad in the cockpit as a replacement for paper charts. Now, Cult of Mac points out that one of the reasons they're doing it isn't, because it's sexy or, kind of cool to have it, but rather because it's going to save them a lot of money. Cult of Mac says that American Airlines could save up to $1.2 million every year in fuel costs alone. And basically that's because the in-flight maps and charts weigh as much as 35 pounds or more, and since the iPad weighs just less than 2 pounds, that's over 30 pounds shaved off the fuel prices of each flight. And if you fly as much as American Airlines does, the costs add up. So that's pretty cool. And I think we're going to see more use of the iPad in the enterprise. This is just the latest example. Actually, there's another airlines, I think Alaska Airlines, that has announced that it's replacing all of its flight charts for all of its planes this summer, and that all the air pilots for that airline are going to use the iPad. So, I expect it to be in every business very soon. Okay, good news if you're a developer of web apps for the iPad or iPhone, or if you're a iPad user who likes web apps, because Apple is apparently going to allow the JavaScript Nitro boost in iOS 5 to also be used for web apps. Now, this seems a little obscure, but there was a bit of a controversy a little while back because Apple has this technology that really makes currently the Safari browser on the iPad and the iPhone pretty zippy. And that's a technology called JavaScript Nitro. Now, what people have discovered, though, is that the JavaScript Nitro doesn't really boost web apps that are, these are the apps. If you go to some websites, they'll have like a web page that's really, it's a web app that's designed to be downloaded and put on your iPad or your iPhone. And the way you download it is in the Safari browser on the iPhone or iPad. You press Save to Home Screen, and then that web app is on your home screen. And I haven't really seen that many great native web apps that work that way. But the people who have used them say that for some reason Apple didn't have the JavaScript Nitro JavaScript engine working with those native web apps. But now it turns out that in iOS 5, it's gonna have Nitro in the web apps. So if you're into web apps, making them or using them, this is good news because they'll be just as zippy as the Safari browser. Okay, so how are, what kind of competitors do we have to the iPad? How are they doing? Well, one supposed competitor to the iPad is RIM, the maker of the BlackBerry device, which you see a lot of in enterprise and among young people texting each other. And, well, RIM is not doing very well. And there's a nice story on This Is My Next, mynext.com website. Now, that's the website of Josh Topolsky and other editors who left Engadget rather recently and are going to do something new, but they have this great website called thisismynext.com, and they have it's like a tech blog, and they have interesting stuff on it. So basically, RIM, the company that makes the BlackBerry, has been dropping like a fly. Like its stock has been plummeting, and its fiscal quarter first earnings hit the wires, and it's all bad news. And but what's interesting is they've only shipped. RIM is claiming to have shipped 500,000 units this quarter, and the website This Is My Next believes that a significant percentage of the 500,000 units remain in retailers' hands, and they doubt that RIM is going to sell very much. And RIM also announced massive layoffs, and its net income is down roughly 10% over the same quarter. So it's obviously taking a hit on the BlackBerries because of the Android and iPhones that are out there. But I just can't imagine that the playbook that RIM has is going to do that well. Like, let me just remind you, the playbook by RIM, first of all, it's not a 10-inch device like the iPad. It's only 7 inches. And I think it's like roughly the same price, starting price, as the iPad. So why are you going to get it if it's much smaller? And then the other really stupid thing about it is that you can only use it together with a BlackBerry if you want cell phone data access. You know, so you can't get it with its own cell phone data connection. So you have to tether it to a BlackBerry. And then the other thing is you can't use email unless you tether it to the BlackBerry. Like, it doesn't have email just through a separate Wi-Fi connection. So this is just really ludicrous. And given the sort of financial turmoil RIM is in, with its stock price collapsing and there are shareholder revolts, I can't imagine a lot of enterprise customers are going to go rushing out to buy the playbook when they don't even know if they're going to jettison the BlackBerry as a phone for their employees. You know, a lot of companies starting in the late 90s, you know, the BlackBerry was it. And the BlackBerry ruled enterprise. But I got to think, you know, a lot of people who work in the enterprise and big business or government and have iPhones at home are wondering, why doesn't their company or agency or school, why don't they get an Android phone or an iPhone? Why are we using BlackBerries? I mean, I use a BlackBerry at work, and it's just horrendous. It really has only 2 uses for me. One, to get and receive email, and also it syncs my calendars and Outlook notes with my Outlook on my PC at work. But for browsing the internet or running other apps, it's useless. And as for reviewing documents, it's useless. Usually I email documents to my iPhone or iPad if I want to read them. So don't expect the playbook to really be a viable competitor to the iPad. Okay, so another device that may be the best competitor to the iPad is the Samsung Galaxy Tab 10.1. And this is mynext.com did a review of that by Joanna Stern. And, you know, it generally has like some positive things to say about it. The Galaxy Tab is 10 inches. So it is like the size of the iPad, and its starting price is the same price as the iPad, $499, and it runs a dual-core Tegra 2 processor, 1 GB of RAM, 2 cameras, and 16 GB of storage space. So the specs feel pretty comparable to the iPad. Its weight is 1.24 pounds, so it's a little lighter than the iPad 2, which is at 1.33 pounds, and its thickness is comparable. The iPad is 0.34 inches thick, while the Galaxy Tab is 0.33 inches. She says that the 10.1 feels pretty great in hand, and she prefers the curved edges to the iPad's sharper size. But she goes on to say, however, the aluminum back of the iPad gives it the upper hand in terms of build quality. So it feels more plasticky, the Galaxy Tab. But she does say that the Galaxy Tab's hardware is well made, well designed, and it is a real competitor, she says, to the iPad in terms of form factor. And, overall, I think she's basically saying this is the most viable competitor to the iPad. The pros she has are that it's incredibly thin and light design, bright display, improved software, keyboard, very clean build of 3.1 Android. But the cons are that it has no mini USB or micro SD card slot, and that honeycomb app selection still trails iOS, and the camera isn't great. So really the big drawback, I think, for a lot of people is going to be that you just do not have the great app selection that you do on the iPad. But hardware-wise, it sounds that it's kind of competitive to the iPad. So right now that looks to be the best competitor for the iPad. Okay, so the iPad does appear to be the tablet market for now, and it's not just my saying so. CNET has an article that came out on June 18th titled "The iPad is the Tablet Market for Now." And the author is Brooke Crothers, and he basically says that right now, outside of the iPad, there's a lot of confusion for consumers in trying to get an alternative tablet. And he basically says that he swung by his local Costco in LA because there had been reports claiming that the Motorola Zoom had dropped to $500 at Costco. And he gets there and he asks around, and they don't really post the price very clearly, according to him. And he asks around, and then the price comes back from a manager that it's $789. Again, why would you get that when you can get an introductory priced iPad, the 16 gigabyte, for $499? So he says, needless to say, I was surprised, as that's higher than the online price and a far cry from $500. In other words, the $789. But he goes on to say, but that was the only price she gave me, and it's possible that other Costco stores may be selling the Zoom for $499 or $500, but certainly not this one. So then he goes on to say, the moral of the story is that confusion sows doubt. And he says, I'm guessing this sort of experience would send the average consumer who is trying to decide between an Android tablet and the iPad running to an Apple store where this kind of very basic question doesn't even need to be asked. And this isn't the first time, he says, that he walked out of a store shaking his head. He said Best Buy is still struggling to sell and effectively explain tablets. And he says he's not alone in this opinion, and that he's had discussion with Richard Shim, an analyst at Display Search, about this. And he goes on to say, until other tablet makers can offer a buying experience that replicates to some degree the relative clarity Apple provides, buyers visiting retail outlets like Best Buy and Staples won't have a clue about why they might need a tablet, according to Shim. So this is a really good point, because think about it. Tablets are kind of like a revolutionary device right now, and people are very confused about them. And, if you go into a store and the people selling it are confused about it, then why would you get it? Because it's a paradigm shift. People are used to computers, laptops, and desktops, and to tell them to get an iPad, a tablet, is really kind of revolutionary. So right now, the only clarity is that Apple has this device and people are raving about it. But at least you go to an Apple store where they're mainly sold. People, everybody's got iPads. And Apple did a genius thing by now having iPads be the actual displays, replacing the paper displays for every significant hardware item in an Apple store. So now if you go to the Macintosh section to buy a Macintosh, the display, the electronic display to give you information about the Macintosh is an embedded in glass iPad. So, it's just a clearer message. So, yeah, I don't expect this year to be really any major competition to the iPad. I think you're going to start seeing it maybe from one device. Maybe someone's going to come out with a really solid Android device, and maybe it's Samsung with the Galaxy Tab, and maybe that's next year. Okay, so let's discuss some new apps that are out. One new app that has caught my eye is something called Catalog Spree by a company called Padopia. Padopopoulos. I can't pronounce it. It's a clever name on the word pad. Anyways, Catalog Spree. It's a free app. And what is Catalog Spree? But it sounds like basically, you know those big paper catalogs you used to get from different stores? Well, it looks like this app takes all those catalogs and puts them in an app, which is really clever. So I'm not sure how they make their money because it's a free app, and I guess it was last updated on June 8th, 2001, version 1.1. So basically, you know, it's the ultimate catalog, and you know, according to the description, it's got catalogs from Bullocks and Jones, Gumps, Napa Style, Nordstrom, Serena and Lily, Tea Collection, U.S. Toy, Wine Enthusiast, Woolrich, and they basically, you know, go and get all these catalogs, and they're all part of the app. So if you like reviewing catalogs, this seems to be the way to go. Now, it also has something known as Catalog Spree. And so basically, according to them, Catalog Spree is the fun and easy, eco-friendly way to shop from catalogs. It says our interface is so intuitive it hardly needs explanation. When you open the app, simply choose a catalog to start browsing immediately. No waiting and no downloads necessary. You can, you know, turn the pages. You can put on visual search to instantly spot items in the catalog, and you've got a lot of visual, you know, spreads of the products. So look, it's free, and you know, it's a good way to save trees because you know, just looking at the screenshots, it's a way to, you know, look at catalogs. And I like the idea of having all your catalogs in one app. It'd be great if they could get every catalog that's ever issued and make deals with them, because it would just make it very convenient not to hunt around through different apps. So who knows, maybe Apple will come out, you know, Apple is going to have a newspaper stand that's going to be the place for all newspapers to be subscribed to or sold on the iPad and the iPhone. And maybe they'll come up with a catalog stand at some point. Okay, so if you're another app that I can recommend that's a free app is a new app called Bamboo Paper, or maybe just the current version is brand new because it was updated on June 16th. And this is made by the company Wacom, which is famous for its what do they call them? They're tablets that work with the Mac where you can sketch, and they make styluses. And I've been actually very interested in Wacom recently because I've mentioned in past shows Wacom has a great tablet stylus that they made for the iPad, and I guess it works well with this free program that they have, the free app called Bamboo. It's called Bamboo Paper, and I downloaded it, and it's kind of cool. Now I only used it with my finger, but what I liked about the app, it's basically a note-taking, you know, app where you can sketch notes and write notes to yourself and create multiple page notes. But it lets you choose from different pen thicknesses, and I actually, just using my finger, really like the way it flowed with, flowed with my my writing. So this is a free app, and you know, like I said, with free apps, just download them, test them out. If you don't like it, just delete it, get rid of it. But if you're into note-taking, I'd suggest getting this. You know, another one that I've mentioned before is Note Taker HD, and some other ones that I've mentioned before. So there's a lot of great note-taking apps on the iPad, and this, I think, has added to the bunch. Okay, so another free app that you might want to download that just came out is an app called Peter Malhar, M-I-L-L-A-R, Peter Malhar. It's a free app, and it's basically a, you know, luxury clothes store, and it's free because it allows you to view the products by Peter Malhar. And so it's, you know, I think it's an app that I saw that there's a great website called Stylish iPad Apps, and they really just highlight apps that come out on the iPad. And but basically, Peter Millar, I guess, is a purveyor of fine clothes, and it basically says that this is its collection. So it's sort of like, you know, think of a company like Brooks Brothers. So basically, Brooks Brothers is probably going to have, if it doesn't already, an iPad app. And this Peter Millar store has this very sort of cool looking iPad app where you can, you know, view all their linens and clothes and men's suits. So it's, you know, if you want to pick out a nice jacket and tie and material, Peter Millar has it. Again, it's free, the app. You don't have to buy anything, and you might want to check it out if you're into seeing this sort of thing. Okay, so one of the more unusual apps that just came out for the iPad is something called Discover Apps. That's spelled D-I-S-C-O-V-R. So there's no E in Discover, just VR at the end. So Discover Apps, and this is kind of interesting. It's a 99-cent app that came out on June 14th. And basically, it allows you to discover other apps and how they're connected. So the premise is kind of cool because it gives you sort of like a chart that shows how apps are connected. So in the example, you know, the screenshot example, like in the app, if you put in Instagram, it would show you how Instagram is related to other apps like Path and Postagram and Hipstamatic and Color and Panoramic 360, and then how it's sort of related to Camera Plus, and then Camera Plus is related to these other photo apps. So it's pretty interesting. I mean, what it says is that you know, it simply search for an app that you like or choose from one of our featured apps. Will show you how the apps you choose are connected in a massive, never-ending map of the App Store, and will give you great recommendations for other apps to download. So I don't know how they do this, but they must mine the descriptions in the App Store and then figure out how apps are related to each other. It goes on to say that when you find an app you like, you can read the app description, check out the screenshots and ratings, or buy it directly from the App Store. You can also share your favorite apps and maps with your friends via Twitter, Facebook, or email. Now, you know what? This looks really useful because there are just so many apps, both for the iPhone and the iPad. And I'm looking now, if you're looking at the video version of this, at the screenshots for the iPad version, and it's basically, it's just a way to map apps. Now, I don't know, you know, it's only 99 cents, but do you really need this? Because the App Store, when you go to an app, will tell you what other apps people bought or recommend apps that relate to it. So this is just a different way of doing that. But if you're really into apps on the iPad and the iPhone, it might be worth getting this app just to have a different way to find interesting apps. Okay, so another app that you might want to get, which is free, is something called 43rd. And the app's, I guess, name is just 43 and the letter D. So 43 and the letter D. And its official name is, I guess, 43D World Sound Mix by 43D. So this is a free app. And basically it's one of these sort of like sound mapping music apps with all sorts of cool visuals, because we've seen that before in some apps. So basically, this is the description. It says, 43rd World of Sound Mix is the application to travel all over the world through indigenous sound images where the sound is recorded based on the sound database by users from all over the world. As a furniture sound, we'd like to enjoy this application. I'm not sure what they mean by that. This application requires a broadband Wi-Fi environment. So, you know, again, it's a free app where you could sort of explore the world and I guess indigenous sounds through this visual global map. And we've seen all sorts of crazy sound, music, visualization apps that connect sound and do cool things. And again, this is free, and it came out, well, it's last updated on June 14th, 2001. So the one rating that I see is someone says, I like it, some nice surprises. So again, it's a free app, and why not? It's free. You've got the iPad, download it. You might like it. You might be able to show it off at a party or to friends, and if you get sick of it, just delete it. Okay, so another free app you might want to get is a utility app called Super Waitlist. Super Waitlist by Big Nerd Ranch, Inc. Now, Big Nerd Ranch is a famous company that sort of teaches people how to create apps for iOS and other devices, but they're mainly an iPad, iPhone, education center where you pay them and they lecture you. So I'm not sure why they created this. Maybe it was a something one of their students did. Now it's a free app, but there are in-app purchases. For 30 messages, 99 cents, is for 300 messages, $9.99. And so what Super Waitlist is, it's basically a device, an easy way to manage parties waiting to dine at your restaurant. So it's really, if you have a restaurant and basically you put people in a queue, and then you can add the party where they're in and have things like when to call them, to seat them, to remove them, where they are in the queue. So it's really a way to keep track of the customers who are waiting to be seated. So, it's an interesting concept. The features include manage your wait list across multiple iOS devices. You can send SMS notifications and a quick call button, and that's for the iPhone version. You have a wait timer with color-coded warnings when a party's estimated seat time is approaching. You can view wait time table and SMS statistics, and you have customized seating areas in there. So I guess where they get you with this thing is they'll charge you if you want to have a lot of messages sent from within the app. So that seems to be the utility of it. But look, it's a cool concept. Again, this is something people in enterprise would use. This is something that could make it easy for restaurants to keep track of their customers waiting for a table. Okay, so finally, I just want to talk about an app that came out in the jailbreak community for the iPad called Phonelty Pad. So I guess it's spelled Phonelti Pad. And basically it's a jailbreak app in the Cydia store. So that means you would have to jailbreak your iPad and buy it. And it's pretty expensive. It's $20. But basically it purports to turn your iPad into a fully functional phone. And it's by a company called Phone Islam Tube. And, there's a video I have of it up on my blog, which shows how it's used. And look, I wouldn't really go this route right now because you can't do an untethered jailbreak of the iPad right now. You can only do a tethered jailbreak. And I don't know. You also, why do you really need this? Because you have things like Skype and other voice over IP services that work with the iPad. So, do you really need to turn the iPad into a full functioning actual phone? And they appear to do this. I guess they put like a a SIM card in there. So if you've got the 3G, but it really just turns it into a phone. I guess the big part is it's got like a phone-like interface like the iPhone, with speakerphone, a keypad button, mute. So, I mean, it's a cool hack because at some point, if you are always carrying your iPad, why do you need an iPhone? So some people have thought, I'm always carrying my iPad around, and let's say you have 3G, you could save a lot of money, because like an iPhone with the phone calls and the data plan is at least $70-80 a month, and an iPad on 3G with AT&T is just $25 a month. So it's a cool hack. So anyways, listen, this has been episode 59 of the iPad podcast. This is Lex at Max Future. Thanks for listening. And if you have any questions like Hal did, don't hesitate to email me at maxfuture@gmail.com or leave a voicemail at 617-826-9676. And again, this is a commercial-free podcast, and any positive feedback in the iTunes store would be greatly appreciated. And we'll see you next week.